ang Ating Katipunan. Muling sumasa inyo mga tagapakinig upang magbigay ng mahahalagang impormasyon, magbigay liwanag at higit sa lahat ay makinig sa inyong mga daing at kuro-kuro hinggil sa mga problemang patuloy na nagpapahirap sa ating kalagayan at kabuhayan. Sa susunod na 2 oras, sisikapin po namin ipaliwanag ang iba't ibang bahagi ng ekonomiya at mabibigat na local at international issues sa ating bansa. Ito po ang inyong katipo na si Cathy Cruz. Siyempre, hindi pa po natin makakasama ngayon si Valdes at sisimulan po niya by this February. At siyempre, kasama pa rin natin ang ilang mga kasama natin mula sa Save the Nation Movement, Philippine LaRouche Society at siyempre sa ating partido Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. At ang ating makakasama ngayong gabi ay walang iba, siyempre ang kasama ni Professor Butch sa Crossfire. Mamaya abangan niyo po yan. Pero siyempre sa lahat po ng ating mga nanonood ngayon sa pamamagitan po ng social media account, Partido KDP po sa ating FB page at siyempre sa ating pong YouTube account. Ito po ang inyong katipon, syempre, na nag-aanyaya po sa inyo na makibahagi sa ating talakayan sa pagsusuri ng mga kasalukuyang problema at paghahanap ng kaukulang solusyon. At syempre, yung ating tayo po ay napapakinggan din sa pamamagitan po ng radyo sa himpilan po ng RMN DZXL 558 kHz po sa inyong AM band. So, halina po kayo, mag-text po kayo sa aking cellphone number kung kayo po ay hindi nanonood sa social media at sa pamamagitan lamang ng radyo, sa 0915-2584-091 o maaari rin po kayo mag-iwan ng comment sa ating social media accounts. Partido KDP o Katipunan Channel. Parehas po yan sa ating pong FB page ng Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. Well, ngayon, isa na naman po na episode ang pagbabalik nakaraan. Bibigyan po natin mga 3 videos to na magaganda po ang mga speeches, mga sinabi po ni Professor Butch Valdes dito. One is yung kanyang speech during the Citizen National Guard First National Congress. Second ay itong sa paglulunsad ng Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino bilang isang national party nang lumahok po nung election po ng 2019. At ang isa ay isa pong speech niya mula sa World Philosophical Forum kung saan siya po ay naging panauhing pandangal po dyan. So yan po ay ipapaliwanag, makakasama natin si Rita Gadi mamaya later on. But simulan po natin dito sa isang pagtitipon po na ginawa ng Citizen National Guard. Nandiyan na si Ma'am Rita. Okay, magandang gabi Ma'am Rita Gadi. Siya po ang Board of Director, isa po sa haligi po ng Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino at syempre host din ng Crossfire. Magandang gabi Ma'am Rita. Wala kang audio, Ma'am Rita. Yan, unmute.
Okay, magandang gabi, Cathy.
gabi
Maraming
po.
salamat at nagkasama tayo muli. Maganda
Finally.
itong ating palatuntunan ngayon. Always, basta kasama si Sir Butch.
Opo. And Ma'am Rita, mukhang may okasyon kang nandyan na. Happy birthday kung sino man yan.
Oo nga, medyo na-late ako kasi nga, saan ka naman makaka-deny ng crispy pata? Imposible naman na hindi.
Nainggit tuloy ako bigla.
Oo nga.
Kaya lang takot ako sa high blood. Ma'am Rita. Alam mo na pagka nagkakaedad na medyo iba na yung natin, preference.
Pero
Diba?
ang sabi nga, basta enjoy your food. Don't eat too much, but just enjoy it. Okay lang.
Anyway, Ma'am Rita, isa pong malaking karangalan po na kayo po ay kasama po namin dito sa ang ating katipunan ni Professor Butch Valdes. Kayo po ay isa po sa maituturing kong haligi po ng isang political party, national political party, ito nga pong Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. At karangalan ko rin po, para po tayo nag-usap, parehas pa tayo ng kulay.
Oo nga.
Usap, di ba, Ma'am Rita?
Oo, talaga, pati ang prints natin,
Oo
nagkakatugma.
nga po, nakakatuwa po. Pero, of course, ako po personally, ang isang Rita Gadi na makasama mo sa isang palatuntunan ay isang karangalan talaga. Kaya marami pong salamat sa pagkakataon po sa oras na ibinabahagi po ninyo sa palatuntunan ito, Ma'am Rita.
Maraming salamat. Alam mo, Cathy, kaya sinasabi mo yan sapagkat sabi nga ng mga anak ko, para na akong relic. Sa tagal ng panahon na ako ay nasa broadcast, ay talagang, naku, sabi nga nila, siguro kinover ko pa yung pagdating nga ni Ferdinand Magellan. Kaya yun ang bit-bit ko. It's the backpack of history. Yun nga ang kaya sinasabi nga na, sabi mo karangalan, well, it is always that way pagka binabalik natin ang nakaraan. And that is very important. Lalo na ngayon, yung nakaraan natin na nakasama natin si Sir Butch Valdes.
Yeah. Tama po kayo, Ma'am Rita. At katulad mo, Ma'am Rita, no, ay marami pong iniwan. Hindi lamang mga alaala kung paano siya naging isang boss, isang tatay, at ama ng bansang ito, no. Kumbaga sa marami tayong natutunan mula sa kanyang mga pagtuturo, sa kanyang mga ideya, na kung saan ay talagang hindi pansarili kundi pangkalahatan para sa humanity, ika nga, di ba, Ma'am Rita?
What is outstanding as far as Sir Butch is concerned, ang lawak ng kanyang imagination, ang lawak ng kanyang creativity. Karamihan kasi sa atin, sa mga nababasa natin, naaaral natin, doon at doon na lang tayo kumukuha ng material, yung sinasabi nga ng ating sourcing. Ngunit kay Sir Butch, talagang marami siyang nabigkas at nagawa na original ideas. Nakuha niya ito sa mga pag-aaral at pagbabasa, ngunit karamihan ng kanyang binabahagi sa atin ay talagang original ideas, authentic, kung sasabihin nga natin. At yan ang kailangan natin matutunan sapagkat sayang naman ang pag-iisip kung talagang hanggang edukasyon lang o hanggang sa binabasa lang. Kinakailangan na gamitin natin ang ating sinasabing ang ating imagination. As you know, sabi nga ni Einstein, imagination is the food of the soul.
Yeah.
Doon nang gagaling ang ating creativity. Yan si Sir Butch.
Totoo po yan, Ma'am Rita. At alam mo, kung babalikan ko yung mga speeches niya at mga writings talaga, marami po akong nakita na it was in 2004 pa. Pero very applicable up to this day. Yung lahat ng mga sinasabi niya na mangyayari sa ekonomiya at sa sitwasyon po ng maraming Pilipino. Siguro hindi ko na masyadong palalayuin, no? Maganda siguro simulan natin dahil itong 2 sa 3 ilalabas po natin na video na ito ay kayo lagi ang tagapagpakilala kay Professor Butch. One is yung ating first Congress ng Citizen National Guard, and the second one is nung i-launch natin in 2019 etong national political party natin na Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. And true enough, yung inyong mga mensahe ay hindi rin naman din matatawaran sa pagpapakilala nyo kay Professor Butch. Maaring simulan natin muna, Ma'am Rita, yung sa Citizen National Guard, and afterwards, you can make a comment about it.
I have the honor to read to you the statement coming from the Citizen National Guard and the Save the Nation movement. And we entitle it, A Call to Defend the Republic Against the Enemies of the State. When present conditions of terrorism, rebellion, drug, proliferation and insidious attempt towards regime change by foreign intelligence agencies have reached critical levels, threatening the welfare of our citizenry, peace and order, and sovereignty of our nation. It is incumbent upon every patriotic Filipino to do as best he can to participate and support government, all its agencies, and the armed forces of the Philippines in defending the integrity of the Republic. It is our considered opinion that the Marawi siege by extremist and terrorist groups are part of a larger conspiracy to forcibly acquire Philippine territories, establish caliphates by infiltrating Muslim communities, causing mass destruction of lives and property, resulting in the general destabilization of Philippine society. That, for fear of being convicted and sentenced for crimes against the people because of plunder, murder, usurpation of authority, criminal negligence, obstruction of justice, and treason, certain members of the previous administrations of the executive branch, legislature, and judiciary actively conspire with our other groups intent on regime change. That, in the process of asserting our country's sovereignty, President Rodrigo Duterte refused to allow our territory to be used as a military base of a foreign nation planning to install offensive nuclear armed missiles as preparation for war. That, we quote, "We are not your colony, nor are we slaves of anyone," demanding the recognition of our independence, mutual respect, enemies of no one, and promoting goodwill to all peoples of the world. That, in the process of fighting criminality, declaring war against crime, corruption, and drug syndicates, cleansing of our society of drug pushers, dealers, addicts, grafters, scalawags, and other criminal elements. A reaction of negative propaganda, presumably instigated by the regime change architects, specifically the CIA and European agencies, through New York Times, Washington Post, Rappler, etc., and with their foreign and local surrogates, seek to destroy the firm resolve and popular support of President Duterte. That, in pursuing their sinister objectives, it is not beyond the capability to create a conspiracy of forces with similar goals, including the New People's Army, Maute Group, drug syndicates, and political opposition to oust the president by all illegal means, even to the extent of assassinating him. That the resulting chaos, should their evil plan succeed, will result in an unprecedented, widespread turmoil, bloodshed, civil war, and the dismemberment of the society. A condition of little consequence to the terrorist ideologues, drug syndicates, political opportunists, and the CIA. Therefore, we, citizens of the Sovereign Republic of the Philippines, soldiers of the Filipino people, teachers, doctors, farmers, engineers, and other professionals, students, and members of religious organizations, all sectors of society do hereby declare that the Citizen National Guard and the Save the Nation movement reject any notion of foreign instigated and assisted regime changes, contrary to the principle of sovereignty and interest of the Filipino people. That the conspiracy of evil forces enumerated above poses as grave and imminent danger to the lives of our population, destroying the future of the coming generations, threatening the integrity and the very existence of our nation as an independent republic. That we call on all patriotic Filipinos to discard ideological differences, party affiliations, disparity of religious beliefs, and regional origins, to close our ranks, stand behind one flag, commit our honor, dedicate our lives to fight as best we can in defense of our country, support our president, and assure a better life for the coming Filipino generations. Inspired by divine providence and sincerity of our intentions, we give our solemn oath to defend and protect the integrity of the Republic as we affix our name and our sacred honor. Signed, Citizen National Guard and Save the Nation Movement.
Okay, yan ang statement ni Professor Antonio Butch Valdes noong October 3, 2017, during the press conference to ng Citizen National Guard. Ma'am Rita, so kayo ang nito nag-introduce kay Professor Butch nung time na yan it was held in somewhere in Manila, no? Ma'am Rita?
Yeah, what is important here, Cathy, maalala natin kung paano ito naitatag.
Yes.
Sir Butch was thinking of what was happening globally. Kasi nagsimula na yung tinatawag na ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Iran and Syria. Ngunit sabi nga, hindi lang Iran at saka Syria yan. Yan ang tinatawag nga na sa Levant. Yung mga Islamic states na sila nais nilang ibalik yung kanilang nakaraan kung saan ay meron silang mga little kingdoms and then they had the world caliphate. Parang Islam was actually part of their world government. Ngayon, itong mga ito ay nag-umpisa nga ito sa Syria. Si Bashar al-Assad na presidente doon ay na-threaten gawa ng doon umusbong. Kaya kung maaalala ninyo, na pinapalabas nila sa media, hindi ito social networking or talagang pinalalabas nila worldwide yung mga pinupugutan ng ulo.
Yes.
Sapagkat they were invoking something from the hadith, mga sayings ni Muhammad that heaven awaits those who hold the blade, who hold the sword. So parang yun ang kanilang ini-invoke na yung mga hindi naniniwala sa kanilang pinaninindigan, kailangan pugutan ng ulo at diretso sila sa langit. So you could see that this is the background kasi nabanggit nga ni Sir Butch dun sa kanyang introduction ng Citizens National Guard. Nabanggit niya yung paglusob ng mga terorista.
Yes.
Remember, these are not just local terrorists. May mga foreigners yan. As a matter of fact, yung mga feedback na nakuha natin at yung mga interviews na nakuha rin natin, matatangkad dito, mga matataas na tao, pero hindi pinakita yung kanilang mga mukha. Meron silang mga, anong tawag dito, yung ski mask. And they were all wearing black. So nagsimula ito sa isang baryo, somewhere sa Maguindanao, pagkatapos nag-spread na ito kasi hindi nila nakuha yung buong probinsya ng Lanao del Sur at ng Maguindanao, kaya doon sila sa Marawi, which is really the center of Islam kung talagang titingnan natin ang demographics ng Marawi. Ito kasi nung darating yung mga pulis para mag-present ng warrant of arrest, iba ang sumalubong sa kanila. Mga lalaki na nakasuot ng itim at doon nagsimula yung mga pumasok na mga terorista kasama ng mga taga doon. And, actually, if we go back in time, hindi lang yan umusbong just then
Yes.
na nakita natin yung nangyari sa Marawi. Pinaghandaan ito. As a matter of fact, nung nagbombahan na at lahat, nung natapos na ito, yung mga dikit-dikit na bahay may mga butas sa magkakatabi para meron silang escape route hanggang sa patungo sa Lanao Lake. Kaya pinaghandaan para yung Marawi City will become the center of the caliphate dito sa Pilipinas. Now that is the background. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but just so long as you will understand saan nanggaling yung pag-iisip at yung sinasabi ko nga, the idea of Sir Butch Valdes
Correct.
na magtatag ng Citizens National Guard. Nabanggit niya yan, the terrorism that is now invading, at the time, Syria and several other places in the Middle East. Ilang taon ito, halos 6 na taon. It was only quelled when the Russian forces joined with the forces of Syria at napatay nga nila yung mga may hawak sa Aleppo, which is the biggest commercial industrial city doon sa Syria. Anyway, yan ang nakita ni Sir Butch na nangyayari sa mundo at yan ang nangyari dito sa Marawi. At maliban dyan, meron din tayong mga katunggali dito, yung Communist Party of the Philippines. There is nothing wrong with believing in communism or being a communist. But when you use violence and when your objective is to overthrow the legitimate government, yun na. Yan na yung mga terrorist and violent acts na yan din nabanggit din yan ni Sir Butch. Kaya kanyang naisip na itayo itong Citizens National Guard. Hindi lang ito panlaban sapagkat meron naman tayong regular armed forces of the Philippines.
Yes.
Meron tayo ng civilian arm na yung mga police forces natin. Ngunit ito, ang kanyang ini-invoke, tayong lahat. The citizens themselves should be able to understand and realize how important it is to defend our beliefs, our principles, the values that we hold sacred, especially precisely because of the influence nitong mga teroristang ito. Because ang galing ng kanilang propaganda, the way they went through a lot of indoctrination. In fact, ang daming nabanggit nga ni Sir Butch yung mga media na parang supportive dito sapagkat pinapakita na laban ito sa mga legitimate government na sinasabi nga nag-aapi sa tao and so forth. So, pinagsama-sama na yon. So, inisip ni Sir Butch Valdes na itayo yung Citizens National Guard na yan. Unang-una nga gawa sa nangyari sa Marawi. Pangalawa, pwede pa itong umusbong sa ibang lugar kung sakali man magkaroon din ng koneksyon sa mga dayuhan na pumapasok dito sa atin. Ngunit, pinag-usapan din niya dyan sa ating pagdefensa the values that we hold sacred, the system of laws that we have, the tyrannical oppression that we suffer from our own people and our own politicians sapagkat sa abuses na nangyayari na hindi natitigil yung mga corruption at lahat. That is where the Citizens National Guard should also be very active. Kaya naisip niya, ang haba nung kanyang sinabi na mga premises kung ano-ano ang kailangan natin labanan. Even the traitors in our midst.
Yes.
Yung binasa nga niya at one time yung sinabi nga ni Cicero tungkol sa mga traitors. So lahat ng yan, pinagsama-sama niya upang makita natin na ngayon, napapanahon ngayon, na tayo ay tumayo para sa mga kinakailangan natin na depensa. And basic dito, yung sinasabi nga, is our spiritual life and our values, our system of government, the laws that we have to preserve and that we have to defend. Yan ang background yan. Kaya pag sinasabi nga natin, Cathy, that Sir Butch thinks out of the box, naisip niya yan because of the background of the global movement that was now pervading in many countries. Grabe yung nangyayari sa Syria at the time.
At
and
saka,
several other places. Kaya sa Africa, meron din mga ano dyan. Kaya yun ang kanyang, doon ang galing yung kanyang paninindigan at magtayo na tayo dito sa atin.
Tama
ng
ka doon,
Citizen National Guard.
Ma'am Rita, no? Kasi tatandaan natin na nung ginawa ito, nung naitatag itong Citizen National Guard, ay bagong kauupo pa lang ng ating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. At nung kasagsagan na yan, marami na siyang nakita ni Professor Butch na napakarami niyang kaaway, na maraming kaaway itong ating presidente. Kaya nga, inisa-isa niya yung mga enemies of the state. Sino ba yung kalaban ng Estado, diba? So, katulad ng binabanggit nga ni Professor Butch kanina, ang ISIS-inspired terrorism, ang CPP-NPA, yung mga sindikato o drug cartels, mga seditious political opposition, o kung tawagin niya ay mga yellow cards, talagang pinpoint niya yan. At yung mga foreign intelligence agencies such as CIA nga generating international support para sa regime change. So, yaan yung nakita ni Professor Butch na mula dun sa lokal, sa loob ng ating bansa at labas ng ating bansa na kalaban ng hindi lang ng presidente, kundi mismo ng sambayanang Pilipino ng ating bansa. At talagang itinulak niya, ipinakita niya sa taong bayan na ang Citizen National Guard ay nandyan at itinutulak ang presidente, ang mamamayang Pilipino to defend the integrity and sovereignty ng ating republika, ng ating bansa. At pangalawa, to protect the population and Philippine society in general. At pangatlo ay support the duly elected President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Kasi matatandaan natin noon, di ba Ma'am Rita, na talagang kaliwat kanan yung banat talaga pag talagang plano talaga nila regime change during the time ni President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Di ba Ma'am Rita?
Oo, tama yan. Pero pag minsan, kailangan ihiwalay natin yung threat sa mga leaders natin kasi ito ay part of the political scenario.
Correct.
Talagang sabi nga, pagka natalo ka, ay nadaya ka at gusto mong lumaban sapagkat natalo ka. Kaya pag minsan, kinakailangan mahiwalay natin. Ito ba nagagalit lang sa ating mga leader sapagkat natalo itong mga taong ito kasi yung sinasabi nga na merong opposition at meron namang iba talagang troublemaker lang. Kaya kailangan yung sinasabi nga ni Sir Butch, mahimay natin.
Correct.
Kung ito ba ay threat to the Republic. Kaya sabi mo nga, regime change. Kauupo pa lang nga ni Duterte, ang dami nang bumabatikos. Ngunit, to President Duterte's favor naman, makikita natin na kasama niya ang sambayan ng Pilipino sa lahat ng mga ginagawa niya hanggang sa katapusan ng kanyang pagka-presidente, ang taas ng kanyang rating. Hindi nga bumaba. And can you imagine? As he was exiting, he was already garnering something like 80% ng kanyang trust rating. Anyway, but that is Sir Butch. And that is the person we're talking about tonight. Yan ang pinag-uusapan natin.
Yeah.
Sa dinami-dami ng kanyang naitatag at sa mga kanyang nakita na nangyayari hindi lamang dito sa Pilipinas ngunit sa buong mundo, inisip na niya na kailangan maghanda tayo.
Correct.
Sa kasalukuyan, Cathy, kung idudugsong natin yung kanyang mga binagkas noon at isipin natin ang nangyayari ngayon, tingnan mo ang laban sa Ukraine at saka sa Russia na ngayon pati yung isang defense official ng Amerika nagsasabi na baka magkaroon ng Third World War. Ano ba yan? Dito naman sa ating rehiyon, meron din yung mga hindi hidwaan, ngunit merong hindi kanais-nais na nangyayari na ang mga warships ng Amerika ay paikot-ikot dito.
Correct.
At ang China naman nagdidepensa rin ng kanyang navigational highway. Kasi marahil ay kailangan bigkasin natin ito sapagkat ito dinidiin din ito ni Sir Butch sa kanyang mga talumpati. Ang South China Sea, yan ang parang front door ng China. Kung iisipin ninyo, kung kayo ay nagbukas ng inyong pintuan, pagbukas ninyo, andyan na yung bangketa, andyan na yung karsada. Diyan ka dadaan. Ganyan ang South China Sea para sa China. Yan ang kanyang labasan. Sapagkat landlocked siya sa kabila naman, dadaan siya sa Central Asia, dadaan siya dun sa, ang layo ng kanyang dadaanan ng mga bansa para siya ay makapunta sa ibang bayan. Ang kanyang mga products na kinakailangan ibenta sa ibang lugar, diyan dumadaan. Ang kanyang kinukuha rin ng mga resources, kagaya ng oil, halimbawa, na nanggagaling sa Middle East. Bumababayan from the Suez Canal sa Mediterranean, sa Suez Canal, sa Indian Ocean, tapos papasok dito sa dulo ng mga islands dyan sa South at papasok sa South China Sea para mag-dock dyan sa China. Kaya dito naman, parang yung isang malaking bansa na powerful din, parang hindi gusto na ang China ay lumalakas economically. Kaya paikot-ikot yan, pabantay-bantay. Ang China naman, naglagay din siya ng mga anong tawag dito, mga airport, mga military installations to protect, yun na nga, para i-protect yung kanyang front door, yung kanyang bukasan. Sapagkat may isang bansa na nagpapaliikot dyan na may mga armas din. Bakit nga? So yan ang naisip ni Sir Butch. Nakita niya na hindi lang dito sa South China Sea, ngunit doon din sa Ukraine at saka Russia, pagka magdugsong yung hidwaan na yan, yun na nga ang nakakatakot. Kaya, yung sabi mo nga, Cathy, kinakailangan tayo mismo ay manindigan na sa pagdepensa ng mga isa sa mga pinakamahalaga ang kapayapaan. It's the peace within our region, within our borders, within our navigational highway.
At tama ka doon, Ma'am Rita, at talagang yan ang labis na pinag-aalala ng ni Professor Butch, no? Dahil makikita mo na parang tayo ang pananggalang ng Estados Unidos na habang sila ay nandito sa Philippine waters natin at tila nakikipaggirian sa bansang China, di ba, tayo yung nakasalang sa atin dahil katabi natin ang bansang China, di ba, Ma'am Rita? But anyway, siguro ibigay natin Ma'am Rita yung ikalawang speech na ginawa ni Professor Butch, no? During the launching of Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino.
Sandali lang, Cathy.
Bago
tayo pumasok doon, nais ko rin balikan din yung mga binanggit niya tungkol sa Western media. May mga binanggit siya na mga pangalan ng mga media outlets na sinasabi niya na nagagamit para magpalit ng mga namumuno sa mga bansa. If we look at all of this historically, sabi ko nga, simula pa nung Vietnam War, simula pa nung 1946, 47, 48, nung tinatag ang United Nations, ang objective ng United Nations ay wag na sana magkaroon ng gera sa mundo.
Correct.
Yan ang objective niyan. And sa ngayon, ilang bansa ang pumirma dyan, the Declaration of the General Assembly for Peace. Ngunit, nagkakagera pa rin. Natandaan mo ang nangyari sa North and South Korea, nagkahiwalay. Biruin mo, isang bansa yan na nahati. Para bang isang buong katawan na kalahati ng bituka mo andun sa at yung kalahati ng tiyan mo andito sa kabila.
Correct.
That's one nation. Divided. Hindi magkaiba yan. It's not a different race. It's not a different color or whatever. Yun. North and South Korea. Pagkatapos, yan ang nangyari sa Vietnam. North and South Vietnam. Ano yan? It was a surrogate war between the Soviet Union and the United States of America. Kaya, balikan natin yung sinabi ni Sir Butch. Ang media, ang Western media, ginagamit upang labanan yung mga bansa na gustong pasukan ng Amerika at yung mga leader gustong tanggalin. Ang ginawa nila doon, silang Ngodin Diem, yung kanilang ano doon na in-exile nila sa Amerika. Kaya nakita mo ang away dyan sa Vietnam, ang haba, ang tagal. Pati sa Amerika nagpo-protesta, ayaw nilang maging sundalo para lumaban sa Vietnam. Tayo nga, hindi tayo nagpadala ng sundalo dyan. Tumulong lang tayo sa engineering, medical, tsaka sa infrastructure, pero walang dalang armas. And everywhere, ganyan ang nangyayari. Paano ito lumalaganap? Kasi una, kagaya na nangyari sa Iran. They demonize, the media demonizes the leader. Yan ang ginawa nila sa Libya. Pinicture nila si Gaddafi na demonyo, na pagkasama-sama. Pero ano ang Libya? Free education, free housing, free ang kanilang medical services and hospitalization. Kung gusto nila mag-aral abroad, libre, may bayad. And tuwing nagbebenta sila ng 1 barrel of oil sa mundo, may percentage na lahat ng citizens ng Libya meron silang kita. Binibigyan sila ng kanilang kita doon sa kanilang ine-export. Bakit pinasukan yan? Di ba? Media din ang nagpalabas na si Gaddafi masama. Masama ba yung ginagawa niya sa mga tao niya? Anong ginawa sa Iran? My God, Cathy, pati yung kanilang head of their chief of staff, his soul rest in peace, si Powell nagsalita pa sa United Nations at sinabi, merong weapons of mass destruction saan? Sa Iran. 3 grupo na mga nuclear experts and scientists ng United Nations pumusa sa Iran. Anong kanilang report? Wala silang weapons of mass destruction. And yet, nilusog nila ang Iran kasi media ang ginamit na naman na ang sama ni Saddam Hussein at lahat ng yan. So yan ang nabanggit ni Sir Butch. Ginagamit ang media. Dito rin nangyari sa atin yan. Lahat nangyari. Pag titingnan natin ang history, ganyan talaga. Kaya sinabi nga ni Sir Butch, mag-ingat kayo sa pinapalabas ng Western media sapagkat kanilang pinapakita kung ano ang nagugustuhan ng kanilang power para sila ay makapasok o sila ay magkaroon ng hedgeway o ng edge. Sa Iran, sa Ukraine at saka sa Russia. Ano ang ating nababalitaan, Cathy? Nako, grabe ang ginagawa ng Russia sa Ukraine. Hindi ba alam ng history? Ang Ukraine ay hindi pa nagsasubmit ng kanyang territorial boundaries para siya ay talagang maging part of the countries, states na pinakawalan na ni Gorbachev way back pa. Di ba? Ngayon, sasabihin na ginegera ng Russia. Bakit gigerahin? Mga Russians din yan eh. Iba lang ang lengguwahe ng mga probinsya na nakadikit sa Russia. Anyway, mahaba na yung kwento ko. Pero dyan mo makikita na yung sinabi ni Sir Butch, kaya gusto ko lang balikan yon, na ang Western media ay ginagamit ng isang bansa upang sila ay ma-justify sa pagpasok nila sa ibang lugar. Ganyan din ang ginagawa nila sa Africa. Ganyan din ang kanilang sinasabing sinisiraan ang China. Kasi nga, sa Amerika, halos walang department store na wala kang mabibili hindi made in China. Whatever that is, na talagang it's so ironic. Ang mga kumpanyang malalaki, Nike, etc., andyan ang mga factory nila sa China. And yet, ang kanilang political policy, nilalabanan nila ang China. And the Western media keeps on destroying the image of China to the world.
Correct.
Pantayan natin yan. Yan ang sinasabi ni Sir Butch Valdes. Yan ang mga galamay, anong tawag nito?
Yan ang dapat na mga binabantayan eh.
Oo, yan ang tentacles, yung hydra na yan.
Exactly.
Na kahit naputulin mo yung isang tentacle, 2 pa ang uusbong. Ay, naku po. So, pasensya na lang, Cathy, na pinalik. Sapagkat yan ang nangyayari sa kasalukuyan. Mabuti na lang sa ngayon, itong ating presidente, si Junior, ay marunong siya lumakad sa tinatawag ng tightrope. Kaya, hindi maintindihan ng Western media, kakampi ba na ito natin? O kakampi ba siya ng China? O kakampi ba siya ng Ruso? Kaya magaling ang pagsasalita nitong junior natin na presidente at hindi siya nagpapakita sapagkat ng kanyang kung sinong kanyang hinihiligan sapagkat sinasabi niya I am pro-Philippines. Yun din ang sinabi ni President Duterte noon. Ngunit delikado ang panahon ngayon sapagkat nakikita mo, pumapasok ngayon yung International Court of, ano ba yan, Criminal Court. Gustong pumasok dito para imbestigahan yung mga nangyari nung panahon ni President Duterte.
Correct.
Bakit gagawin nila yan? Bakit nagaan ang media? Gusto nila mag-away si President Duterte at si Junior. Kasi pinipilit nila si Junior, papasukin yan para maimbestiga. O, di ba? So yan ang laro. It's not a good game. It's not a healthy play. It's a dangerous game. Kaya yan ang sinabi ni Sir Butch. Abangan ninyo, bantayan ang mga sinasabi ng Western media. Balikan ko ang Vietnam, halimbawa. Sa isang dekada na naggegera sila doon, lahat ng nababasa natin, hindi ka pa pinapanganak noon, Cathy, na nagrarally na kami dito noon sa karsada kasi lahat ng sinasabi ng American media, nananalo sila sa Vietnam. They're winning the war in Vietnam. Ano nangyari? Umatras sila. Nakita natin sa yung mga refugees, yung mga boat people. Nakita natin yung kanilang paglayas, pag-alis sa Vietnam. At ang Amerika mismo, di ba? Hindi sila nag-ingay yan, pero umatras sila. Talo sila doon. Natalo sila sa Vietnam. Afghanistan, recently lang, anong ginawa rin nila? Nananalo sila doon. Naglagay sila ng kanilang presidente, si Karzai. Pero yon presidente lang pala ng Kabul. Hindi makalabas doon sa city. So ano nangyari doon? Sila rin ang umatras. And when they left Afghanistan, pumasok na yung mga kinakatakutan nila, mga Taliban, yung mga ISIS, andyan na. Pero ang media nila, anong sinasabi? Okay lang na umalis kami kasi kaya na nila. The same thing that they did in Iran, in Iraq, in the African countries. Parating lang sinasabi, panalo sila. Pero they left and they leave the country in distress and in destruction. My God, napuntahan ko, Cathy, nakita ko ang Iraq, nakita ko ang Iran, nakita ko ang Libya. Ang gaganda nila noon and very progressive and very prosperous. Tingnan yung itsura ngayon.
Wala.
Pagkatapos na umalis ang mga Amerikano. And yet, ang Western media ang sinasabi because we wanted to tell them that they should be democratic. Ano ba yung salitang democratic na yan? Yan ang ginagamit
naabuso
nila.
yan Ma'am Rita Yan salitang democratic Kaya nga yung iba nagbibiro democratic. But anyway, Ma'am Rita, we still have 2 videos na kinakailangan natin na ilabas. So, let's go the ball rolling para sa second video.
The identification that we claim to be solely ours, that no other party, no other political party today carries these principles. And the statement goes, from movements of the Save the Nation, the Solidarity for Sovereignty, and now the Citizen National Guard, a new political party rises. The Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino, the KDP. We generated support on the basis of ideas and reacted to people's anger and frustration. We formed the political party due to our people's clamor to provide an alternative to the same old corrupt politicians whose hands are all soiled with stolen money and who cheated to become senators or congressmen. We shall be a party of principle, not of convenience, a party of ideas, not of personalities. We believe that with the list of potential candidates generated from a survey among members of the different movements, we can come up with a team of winners, not just to join debates, but eventually to seize collective leadership which will implement programs that directly benefit the Filipino people. It is our hope, with God's grace and intervention, trusting on our people's determination to fulfill our quest for a Philippine Renaissance, we shall succeed. President Duterte defied the odds because he inspired our people. We intend to follow his example of sincerity and courage. He trusted God and the Filipino people. So should we. We intend to take up three main issues which have been so far ignored by all other political parties. Number one, electoral fraud by COMELEC through the Smartmatic, a destruction of the right to suffrage. Number two, the Dengvaxia genocidal scam, massive corruption and killing of innocents. Number three, the high cost of electricity and water, the biggest burden to families and businesses, among the highest electricity rates in the world, controlled by the oligarchy through the immoral EPIRA law. All these have a direct impact on our quality of life, and we will provide solutions to this. Moreover, we shall present to our people not empty promises, but a program of government which defines the party's philosophy. An economic policy which will move towards the path of agro-industrial development and away from being a service economy and the world's domestic helpers. The world is now facing its worst financial economic crisis in history. Our country is not prepared to face the effects of a global financial meltdown. The new paradigm initiated by China and Russia and a host of other countries through the One Belt, One Road is the only clear alternative available to us to survive the coming catastrophe. We must take advantage of these and actively participate in infrastructure building, in energy and water management projects for our preparation and survival. Also, we must review the terms and nature of our commitment to shoulder onerous and immoral foreign debt service payments, now the largest financial drain in our budget. On foreign policy, a foreign policy which participates in the effort to prevent World War III and move towards global peace and economic development. We must consciously avoid being sucked into geopolitical movements of superpowers which will threaten the security of our nation and the lives of our population. We are a friend to all nations and the enemy of none. On education, an education policy exposed to the fields of sciences, engineering, and the best of classical culture, all focused on developing the inherent Filipino creativity in achieving the national objective of a Renaissance Philippines. We must prepare a policy in education that will support the national goals of agro-industrialization and infrastructure development, which will require a redirection of the education of our youth. On agriculture policy, no one country can rightfully call itself a nation who cannot feed its own people. Given the chance, our party shall move to embark in a program of massive food production, which is science-driven and infrastructure-based, to produce much, much more than what is merely enough for our people. We should not be dependent on importation of our food needs anymore. We do not subscribe to import liberalization as a policy and be dependent on others for our survival. This is a critical element in providing for a healthy and intelligent workforce to meet the demands of industrial growth. On social welfare, we aim to address the welfare of the forgotten Filipinos, those who constitute the most fundamental unit of the Philippine society, the family. Contrary to the constitutional provision, the family has been battered by socio-economic policies which tend to destroy rather than to protect it. Economic programs, proliferation of drugs, morally questionable TV shows, and a general miseducation of our youth are but a few aspects which threaten the sacred values of the traditional Filipino family. The dismantling of families has left its youthful members at the mercy of hostile environment, getting sucked into drug addiction and crime. Likewise, more of the forgotten Filipinos are the 30 million of our cultural minorities who have been ignored by national governments for decades, leaving them vulnerable to destructive ideologies and terrorist influences. All this and more will be articulated in different fora and campaign sorties. We hope to reach and inspire all citizens to see in us a party for the future, ang partido para sa kinabukasan, ang Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino, KDP. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, yan po ang talumpati ni Professor Butch Valdes noong August 31, 2018, during the relaunch ng KDP, ng partido. Actually, para po sa kaalaman po ng ating mga taga-subaybay, 2003 pa po nang unang itinatag ang Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. At lumahok lamang ito ang KDP nitong 2019 election. Di ba, Ma'am Rita?
Tama, totoo yun. Ngunit kailangan hindi lang balik-balikan natin lahat ng sinabi ni Sir Butch sapagkat kung talagang babasahin natin paulit-ulit lahat ng mga pinaninindigan nitong KDP, Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino, which is a legitimate registered political party. Sa simula pa lang, sinabi na niya, it is a party of principles.
Yeah.
And then he enumerated the entire spectrum of governance. Lahat ng mga departamento ng executive at lahat ng kinakailangan sa mga batas na naisagawa na. Yaan ang kanyang binanggit sapagkat walang ibang political party noon at sa kasalukuyan na nagbibigkas ng ganyang kadiin at kadami at a comprehensive coverage of the entire spectrum of government.
Correct.
Kadalasan, yung mga sinasabi nga, mga great-grandmother statements, mag-a-alleviate ng poverty,
Yeah.
mag-a-anong education,
General
mag-a-ganito,
statement.
mag-a-ganyan. Itong sinabi ni Sir Butch, dinitalya niya it is both macro and micro. In general terms, but in specific measures, ano ang itatayo nitong partidong ito kung sakaling manalo ito. Remember that that political party was able to include just about everything that what government is all about. Wala pang partido na naglabas ng ganyan ka-comprehensive na platform. At yan ang kanyang binigkas. And maybe it is about time that we will have to repeat all of those items that Sir Butch mentioned. Kasi magkakaroon na naman ng eleksyon.
Yes.
Itong mid-election nga, yung for senators and congressmen, mga local
Barangay.
government officials na yan. Tapos after 5 years, election na naman. Ano na naman ang magiging plataforma? The same. Here we have the junior of Ferdinand Marcos, nanalo with a majority that has never yet been achieved since 1986, 31 million. Pero kung pakikinggan ninyo yung mga rally niya, nagkaroon ba siyang binigkas na kahit na isa, dalawa, tatlo sa binigkas ni Sir Butch Valdes? Wala. Isang salita lang ang kanyang ginamit, unity. Ngunit, sa pangalan niya, dala na yung backpack nung nakaraan. At sa mga nakakaalala at nakakaintindi ng lahat ng naisagawa ng kanyang ama noong 1965 hanggang 1986, yan ang bitbit ni Junior. Kagaya rin niya ng ginawa ni Sir Butch Valdes dyan sa pagtayo niya ng political party na KDP. Kinuha niya lahat ng mga kinakailangan na maisagawa para sa ating bansa. I don't think there is any man or any other movement or organization that has been able to be as comprehensive as what we have just heard. Maraming mahalaga na kanyang binanggit doon na ngayon sana maisagawa. Isa na yan, yung sa enerhiya. Oh my goodness, paulit-ulit na yan talaga. Energy. Isa na rin dyan yung sinasabi niya tungkol sa agro-industrial economy na hindi na tayo kailangan magpadala ng mga domestic workers, mga midwife, mga nurses. Dito na palaguin natin yung ating agro-industrial. Magsama-sama na para dyan sa investments na yan. Yan, nabanggit din niya. So marami siyang nailagay sa plataforma ng KDP. Sa simula lang, Cathy, naalala mo na mention niya yung Dengvaxia. Tumaban ang KDP dyan sapagkat na-discover nga ang mga nangyari as a result, as a consequence of that vaccine na binigay sa mga bata, minadali. Binigay sa isang panahon na kasi malapit na yung eleksyon. At ilan, naalala mo si Presida Acosta, nilabas niya yung mga consequences na nangyari gawa ng vaccine na yan. Kung atin igagamitin yan as a template na noon ay pinanindigan ng KDP, ano naman ang nangyayari ngayon dito sa vaccine na kung saan-saan ay nanggagaling at kung sa ano-ano mga iba't ibang mga laboratorio ang nagsalita na ay nagkamali kami. Andyan na yung Pfizer, andyan na yung mga ibang Moderna, lahat ng yan. Kulang pa pala. Ito pala ang kinakailangan gawin. Can you imagine? Ganyan na rin ang nangyari doon sa Dengvaxia na sinasabi nga ni Sir Butch. Kaya i-fast forward natin at tingnan natin sa present. You see how applicable his ideas then are today when we have this pandemic happening, this COVID-19 and all its mutations ito naman kanilang vaccine and all its mutations na ang dami na rin. Nabakunahan ka na, magkakasakit ka pa, mamamatay ka pa. Bakuna ka na naman, mamamatay ka na naman. I'm sorry, but you only die once. Pero magkakasakit ka na naman, may booster na, pwede ka pa rin mahawa. Ano ba yan? So you see that even as early as that time, kailan ba yan? 2019 na pinag-uusapan na ni Sir Butch. 2023 na tayo.
Yes.
You see how his ideas are applicable even to this day. Isa na yan. Marami pang iba. So I just want to mention some of them. Pero paalala lang natin sa mga nakikinig sa atin ngayon, Cathy, the KDP is an existing political party of principles, not of people and personalities. Principles and convictions and ideas. Ano ba yan?
Not of
Mahawakan
convenience
ba yan?
and popularity.
Oo,
Diba?
yun ang
Yan po ang
hindi yan sa popularity. Totoo yun.
Correct.
Kaya yung, kung makikita nyo yung linya ng mga kandidato natin noon, naku, talagang pwedeng ipagmalaki.
Mga palaban.
Talagang mga, hindi lang palaban. They are also candidates of ideas and of principles.
Correct.
Yan.
At saka
Yan
ang
ang KDP.
yes, Ma'am Rita. At ang isa sa ako po kasi talagang matagal ng botante. And this is the first time, it is only in 2019 nang nakita ko na ang partido politikal na ito ay talagang meron kaagad plano para sa bansa. May plano kaagad para sa mamamayang Pilipino kung saan tayo dadalhin. Ito lang yung may ganon. Kasi lahat puro general statement, motherhood statements, 'di ba? Ganon lagi. Ito hindi. Katulad ng binanggit mo kanina, Ma'am Rita, inisa-isa niya from the economics na gagawin tayo from service economy to producer economy. Pagdating naman sa foreign policy, friend to all, enemy of none. Pagdating sa education, we will focus on science and engineering, 'di ba? Classical, cultural, and of course, pagdating sa agrikultura, agro-industrialization, ang itutulak natin. At pagdating sa social welfare, number 1, ang family para tiyakin na na mabubuhay na ligtas at mapayapa, 'di ba? At tatlong bagay, yung tatlong pangunahing mga issue na talagang iniiwasan ng ibang mga partido during that time. It is only KDP na nanindigan. Una, para sa pandaraya sa eleksyon sa pamamagitan ng Smartmatic. Pangalawa, yung binanggit mo kanina, Ma'am Rita, yung Dengvaxia genocidal scam. At pangatlo, yung mataas na halaga ng enerhiya, kuryente at tubig. Sino ba sa mga tumatakbo na partido politika at kahit na yung mga, sabihin na nating mga tumakbong mga senador, never in the history, only KDP ang may ganitong uri ng pag-iisip. It is from the ideas of Professor Butch Valdes. Di ba, Ma'am Rita?
Exactly. Alam mo, Cathy, listening to you, I cannot help but feel so proud. Talaga. Di ba? Yang pinagdiinan mo na yung mga bagay na yan, na nabanggit nga ni Sir Butch, na sabi mo nga, wala ka pang nakita na political party na kagaya nito, na talagang sinimot na ang bawat bahagi na kinakailangan puntahan ng ating bayan. You will really feel proud. And the way you expressed it, Cathy, talagang totoo yan. Talagang habang kinikwento mo at habang sinasabi mo, sumasama ako sa iyo. I really feel so proud of being a member of the KDP. No other political party has been able to exhaust the entire spectrum of how our nation should go and how government should function. Talagang ang laking bagay niyan.
Correct.
At nabanggit mo nga yung family, talagang binigyan ng emphasis yan ni Sir Butch.
Yes.
At nakita mo rin ang ginawa niya mismo sa kanyang pamilya. Ganyan talaga, sama-sama silang lahat na yung mga anak niya, yung mga apo at lahat ng yan. By example, nakikita natin yan. And of course, there are other things na binanggit niya at siguro, Cathy, kailangan talaga uulitin natin yan sa darating na eleksyon. Paalala sa mga taong bayan. At sabi mo nga, ang gagaling ng ating mga kandidato. Walang pera pero punong-puno ang
Correct.
kanilang pag-iisip at ang kanilang mga puso.
By the-
Pero madalas, oo, Cathy.
Oh, by the way, Ma'am Rita, para bago po tayo magpatuloy, no, time check lang muna tayo.
Oo, okay.
6 na minuto po makalipas ang alas 8 po ng gabi, Philippine Standard Time. At syempre kasama po natin sa Zoom si Ginoong Johnny Ventosa, Giancarlo Iway, si Gay Aquino, Aaron Vincent, si Kuya Camilo Melendez, nandyan din. Hindi ko lang kilala kung sino tong Huawei Mate 40 Pro. Pakipalitan po yung pangalan para ma-recognize po namin kayo. And of course, sa lahat po ng ating mga masugid na sumusubaybay at nanonood, again, kayo po ay sabayan nyo po kaming napapakinggan sa pamamagitan po ng radyo, Armen, DZXL, 558 lamang po. At syempre, naka-live stream din po tayo sa pamamagitan po ng social media pages ng Katipunan Channel o Partido KDP and of course sa ating YouTube. Kung meron po kayong mga katanungan kay Ma'am Rita, ay paki-comment lang po, ilagay nyo po dyan at babasahin namin later on. We still have one video na kinakailangan po and this is very good, Ma'am Rita, promise. Sayang nga at hindi ka namin kasama dito and I'm excited about this video during the World Philosophical Forum.
Oo
Yung
nga.
speech po ni Professor.
Balikan ko lang isang bagay pa,
Sige
Cathy,
po.
bago tayo pumasok dyan. Parati akong may nakakalimutan. Nadidinig ninyo, I think you've heard many times when Sir Butch speaks and every time he has an address, parati niyang nababanggit the Renaissance.
Yes.
Yung sinasabi niya, the Renaissance of the Filipino. Renaissance is a French word. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, rebirth. Anong ibig sabihin ng rebirth? Kung ating titingnan kung saan nagsimula yung Renaissance na yan, ay sabi nga sa Europe, halimbawa sa Florence, na nagsimula itong mga, yung sila Michelangelo, yung mga artists, dyan nagsimula. Tapos nagkaroon din ng mga classical music, yung mga composers sa music, yung mga painters, na mga lahat na yan. Pero ang kanilang binabalikan ay yung basics, the fundamentals, which was 2,700 years ago. Yung measurement ng mga architectural measurements, the study of astrology, of geometry, of physics, of astronomy, lahat ng yan, doon nagsimula. In fact, doon nagsimula kung paano mag-isip. Yun nga ang sinasabi ko, na nakilala ko si Sir Butch 2,700 years ago. Nakaupo kami doon sa mga talampakan ng mga filosofiya nila Socrates, nila Plato, nila Aristotle, yung mga Greek dramatists na sila Aristophanes, sila Thucydides, lahat yung mga yan, yung mga orators nila Cicero and Demosthenes, doon yan. Yun ang classic, doon nagsimula ang methodology ng pag-iisip. Lahat ng ating inaral sa filosofiya, sa logic, sa cosmology, lahat ng yan, sa theology, doon. Kaya pag sinasabi ni Sir Butch, the Renaissance, it is to bring us back to the fundamentals and the basics where the art of thinking is better actually than what we are being educated on. Because the learning is a continuing process of our minds and our hearts, and most especially our souls. Yun ang kanyang sinasabi. Kaya pag sabi niya, the Renaissance man, o babalik tayo sa Renaissance period, yun ang ibig sabihin nun. We go to the tabula rasa of humanity and civilization, the beginning of time, as a matter of fact, the origins of the universe. At doon magsisimula, dyan mo nakikita the creativity of every individual existing in this planet. So yun lang, Cathy, para
Tao lang
makapagpatuloy
naman.
tayo.
Tao lang po ang may ganyang pag-iisip. Anyway, let's move forward para sa ating ikatlong video.
I cannot overemphasize the strategic value of an international conference of this nature and composition. Conventions of various kinds organized by groups and associations continue to be held all over the world, but to my humble knowledge, none has been convened of this nature and purpose. It is not organized by any religious organization, yet it is full of spirituality. It is not organized by any political and ideological group, yet it addresses the concern of the whole world's population. And that the conference is held here in the Philippines is indicative of the fact that the sovereignty of all nations, large or small, rich or poor, is a recognized principle. In the context of the current political and economic crisis now confronting the world, the Middle East conflict in Syria, Afghanistan, Libya, Iran, the Israeli-Palestinian impasse, the Venezuelan-Argentinian-Brazil economics, the Korean Peninsula, and the South China Sea and West Philippine Sea territorial issues. Tension has risen to unprecedented and historical levels, threatening global conflict which could very well annihilate present civilization. Where 30,000 or more nuclear warheads are in the possession of the superpowers, at 20 megatons each, ready to be unleashed in a war of total destruction with capability of killing the world's population 20 times over. While the hegemony of the Western powers is seen to be waning, their control over the world's monetary system collapsing, their economies in process of collapse as well, the US, UK, France, Germany, and allies have given indication of asserting themselves militarily in various regional theaters. The US pivot of 60% of the mighty naval power to the Southeast Asia, of which the Philippines is right at the center, has heightened a general apprehension not only on our people, but to the people of Southeast Asian nations and China. The causes of conflict have not changed over the history of mankind. Man, motivated by power and greed, tries to control and overpower his fellow man. These result in revolutions by the oppressed to change the oppressors, resulting in wars and world wars. But the strategic question confronting us today, as we have heard in the past few hours, what the problems of the world are. The whole civilization is actually threatened with extinction. If we want to create a new world order of peace and development to ensure survival and prosperity for all nations, how do we achieve this? A historical and important precedent is what was done after the 30 Years' War in the Peace of Westphalia. The end of the 30 Years' War was in 1648. It was a war which rampaged in waves, vicious and violent for 30 years, involving many countries, including Germany, the Habsburg or Austria, Hungary, France, Sweden, Bohemia or Czech Republic, Denmark, Spain, and the Netherlands. The Peace of Westphalia, when all the war parties came together, was the first time that the European community of sovereign states was established. And it was only possible because all of its members recognized each other as having equal legal standing and guaranteed each other their independence. It was clear that this not only required goodwill, but a minimum of efficient guarantees. Most important was the idea that the raison d'etre, the reason for its existence, the identity of this new alliance of community of nation states could never be only for self-preservation. It would be morally justified if it realized ideas and principles which had a higher unifying purpose than just survival of themselves. Such principles exist in the Treaty of 1648. Some were expressed for the first time in history. These negotiations lasted for 4 years. In the end, the Protestants, Catholics, monarchies, republican forms of government were treated as having equal status in the negotiations on the treaty. The peace treaty defined the principles of sovereignty and equality in numerous subcontracts, and in this way became the constitution of a new system of states. Cardinal Mazarin, as the leader of France, the ascendant nation among others, is credited with initiating a move towards peace, the guarantees of independence, recognition of sovereignty, the cessation of hostilities, and forgiveness of damages done to life and properties were the result of the principle laid down by the leaders of the nations. And to paraphrase the portion of that historical document, it reads, Article 1 of the Peace Treaty states, I quote, "And this peace must be so honest and seriously guarded and nourished that each part furthers the advantage, honor, and benefit of the other, and that both forms, from the side of the entire Roman Reich and the Kingdom of France, as well as the other way around, from the Kingdom of France with the Roman Reich, a faithful neighborhood should be renewed and flourish for peace and friendship and flourish again." The agreement called for the principle of the advantage of the other, which meant all proposals coming from every country involved must be to the advantage of the other. This is a very precious idea. It is essential to have peace. It is the idea of Nicholas of Cusa, who had in the 15th century that said that peace in the microcosm is only possible when you have the development of all microcosms. You can only have peace among different nations if each nation develops itself fully and regards as its self-interest to develop the others fully as well. The Treaty of the Peace of Westphalia states that peace is the highest goal of the community states. It was the first time that the framework was created where a different principle from that of the limitless right of the victorious party was implemented. The principle of might is right. This was a gigantic step forward in international law, where might is not right, and the stronger should not necessarily prevail. The present ongoing dispute here in Southeast Asia, particularly the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea, is a case which we believe may find resolution among the principles I have described above. Ideally, the Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte may consider convening the 10 ASEAN countries to propose to all countries involved the very principles which have found acceptance in Europe in 1648 Treaty of Westphalia. Consider the following. First, that China and the 10 member nations of the ASEAN may convene into a non-aggression treaty and committing to a mutually beneficial agreement of exploiting the resources of the disputed waters. Second, guarantee the freedom of navigation to all commercial and military vessels intending to use the Straits of Malacca, going to and from their own respective destinations. Third, to encourage the construction of the Kra Canal in Thailand in order to decongest the Malacca Straits and provide all countries with an alternative route for benefit of all populations. Fourth, a demilitarization of the South China Sea and West Philippine Sea. The whole Southeast Asia should ban military bases for nuclear weapons. Fifth, for China and the ASEAN countries to propose assistance to the United States in rebuilding its infrastructure, which is now deteriorating. Requirements, especially a network of fast rail systems and accommodation of mutually beneficial demands of fair trade. No less than the renowned philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, in his Ethics, Law and Civilization in 1693, in reference to the Peace of Westphalia principles, said that charity is universal benevolence, and benevolence is the habit of loving. Moreover, to love is to take delight in the happiness of another, or what amounts to the same thing. It is to regard another's happiness as one's own. End of quote. We all must realize the China Sea dispute is not merely a Philippines-China problem. It in fact has global security implications, just as in many other regional disputes. It is not enough that a treaty be signed by the parties without efficient assurances that all will abide. It is also difficult to enforce where leaders change and so may their motivations. But what will bind the countries more must necessarily include the beneficial effect on all their populations, an economic order which assures development and prosperity for all. Working towards peace in Europe, Cardinal Mazarin and Jean-Baptiste Colbert closely studied the river systems in the end in view of enhancing commerce and economic activity between the North and Southern Europe. The rivers Rhine, the Vistula, Oder, the Elbe, Weser, and the Ems. These rivers were being used as territorial boundaries. Instead, he sought to make them as economic corridors to enhance development and communication. Mazarin understood that peace among nations must necessarily include a collaboration towards the prosperity of all if it is to last. Today, what better manifestation of this principle can be understood in the promotion of a historic effort by man, now committed to by 130 countries, to implement the One Belt, One Road project, now known as the Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to construct economic corridors of high-tech, fast rail systems which connects all 7 continents of the world by land. We will soon be able to travel around the world by land and transport cargo by land on a transportation system which can travel up to 1,000 miles per hour. The impact on the world commerce with this facility is obvious. Another great historical project of this century that continues to give us hope, which is ongoing and has enjoined all the superpowers, is the Moon-Mars project. The collaborative efforts of the US, China, Russia, India, including Japan, France, and Germany, are planning to land a team of astronaut engineers and scientists on the moon, construct a base station, and use the same to launch another team for man to land in Mars. The stated moon landing goal is 2025. It is highly possible that before the decade is over, man will be well on its way towards realizing a collective effort in making another giant leap for mankind towards the colonization of Mars. Then, as now, mankind is at a crossroads. One path leads to war, despair, and destruction. The other leads to hope, prosperity, and development for the coming generations. With the powers given to us by our Creator, there are no limits to growth. As history has taught us, if we are motivated by the common good and act benevolently to the advantage of the other, we will learn to use our rivers and our oceans and even outer space, not as territorial boundaries, but rather as corridors for commerce, economic and scientific activity to enhance the quality of life of all human beings on this planet. It is my fervent hope that we, citizens of the world, patriots of our respective countries, use this defining historical moment to be the spark that ignites the spirit of a new world renaissance. Thank you very much.
Okay, napanood niyo po ang talumpati ni Professor Butch Valdes noong September, no? September 2019. Tama? September 15, 2019, no? Kung saan ay nagtalumpati siya sa harap ng iba't ibang kasapi ng World Philosophical Forum. At alam mo, Ma'am Rita, andyan kasi ako, kasama ako ni Professor dyan eh, kami ni Ver. At habang nag-i-speech si Professor Butch Valdes, parang among the speakers during that event, siya lang yung may sense. Sorry sorry to tell you, siya lang po talaga yung may sense. At swak na swak doon sa event na pinuntahan niya. At makikita mo kung anong klase ng pag-iisip meron siya. Sino ba mag-iisip na yung kapayapaan yung kung ano yung advantage nung kabila ng kapitbahay mo, advantage mo. Di ba usually hindi naman ganon, Ma'am Rita, mag-isip yung ibang mga bansa. Laging ang nasa isip nila, ako, kami lang. 'Di ba, Ma'am Rita?
Exactly. Diyan mo makikita, Cathy, yung sinasabi nga natin. The creativity of the mind of Sir Butch Valdes. Sapagkat sa kanyang mga pagbabasa at sa kanyang mga experiences at sa kanyang mga nalalaman, ito ay napagtutugma niya hindi lamang para sa kanya na alam niya yon. Ngunit yon ang kanyang magagamit at maibabahagi sa mga kasalukuyang problema. One of the biggest problems we have actually is the resolution of what's going to be the claims over islands, rocks, islets, and waters in the South China Sea. Ang dami-dami ng mga iba't ibang mga panukala. Every once in a while, we have, parang diplomatic protest, merong diplomatic answer, merong pag-uusap dito, pag-uusap doon. Nag-meeting na nga yung dalawang presidente ng China at ang si junior presidente natin. Ngunit nakabitin pa rin.
Correct.
Sa ASEAN na nabanggit nga, 10 member countries. In fact, nung lima lang yan, when there were still 5 countries, wala pa masyado yung mga claims na yan. Nung dumami na at naging 10 member countries na, at nang pumasok na rin ang mga world economies dyan, kagaya ng China at saka ng Amerika, ng Japan, ng Australia, ng New Zealand, at sinamahan na rin ng England, nagkaroon na ngayon ng parang hindi lang sa gulo, ngunit yung sinasabi nga na Sir Butch, there are already territorial boundaries. Parang sinasabi, ito'y akin, and then you have all the definitions which complicate each other.
Correct.
Meron tinatawag na sovereign rights, meron tinatawag na sovereignty, meron tinatawag na continental shelf, meron tinatawag na international waters, meron yung UNCLOS, lahat ng klase na terminology. But there is only one that Sir Butch mentioned.
Yes.
Na kinuha niya yan dyan sa Treaty of Westphalia.
Yes.
In the 17th century, biruin mo yan,
Grabe, no?
nahalungkat niya yan, na aral niyang mabuti, na yung 16 na bansa sa Europe, pinag-aawayan niyang ilog na yan, na dumadaan dyan sa mga bansang yan. And what was the terminology that was used? Marami, ang daming salita, ngunit isa ang ginamit ni Sir Butch. Benevolence.
Yes.
Pagbibigay.
Pagbibigay.
Pagbibigay sa kapitbahay mo para sa kanyang kabutihan. Not for you, but yun na nga kaya nga, benevolence, to extend your kindness outside of yourself.
Correct.
Yun ang napulot ni Sir Butch. At yun ang kanyang inihain para sa atin. Kung ating pag-aaralang mabuti yung kanyang pagkadetalya, kung paano naabot ng 16 na bansa, mga imperial kingdoms, mga iba't ibang organization na nagkasundo sila sa isang treaty. At yung treaty na yan, unang-una, they recognize the benefit of the other.
Yes.
The benevolence, yun ang mahalaga doon. Yan sana ang kanyang parating sinasabi at inuulit-ulit na magawa sana dito sa ating South China Sea.
Yes.
And maybe because of yun ang pinalabas ngayon sa araw na ito, Cathy, ang dami natin na mapupulot dyan na pwede pang gamitin sa kasalukuyan.
Correct.
At kailangan ulit-ulitin natin.
Correct.
That is the genius of Sir Butch Valdes
Agree.
that we are celebrating, honoring, and remembering this evening.
Oh.
Sapagkat, sabi nga ni Cathy, wala pang tao siyang nakita o na. Siguro because, well, whether our friends are of, we have a limited environment. Pero nagbabasa naman tayo, nakikinig naman tayo.
Yes.
Lahat naman ng mga leader ng mundo, pinakikinggan natin. Lahat ng mga nag-a-address sa United Nations, yung mga all the kings, emperors, presidents, heads of state, lahat yan pinakikinggan natin. Sa news, nababalitaan natin lahat yan. Wala pa tayong natatagpuan na nagsasalita ng ganitong mga salita para sa kabutihan ng sambayanan ng buong mundo.
Humanity.
Exactly. Si Sir Butch Valdes ang nagturo sa atin yan, Cathy. Kaya
Exactly.
talagang mahalaga na importanteng sa gabing ito. Inuulit-ulit natin yung tatlong mga ibang nagawa niya para sa darating na panahon, mauulit natin at maisasagawa natin. At yung mga nakikinig sa atin, lalong-lalo na yung may mga kapangyarihan na pwedeng kumilos para sa kabutihan ng sambayanan, ay magamit nila ito. That is the reason why we're sharing this this evening.
Yes.
Not just to honor and pay respect and to celebrate the mind of this man, Sir Butch Valdes, but so that we can be able to gather many of the words that he has spoken to be part of our lives from here on, that we can utilize, that we can share, that we can influence other people to be influenced with. Yun ang mahalaga doon, na magamit yung mga bagay na yan. Ano, Cathy?
Totoo yan, Ma'am Rita. And up to now, alam mo, yan ang isa sa mga speeches talaga ni Professor Butch na parang sarap na sarap akong pakinggan. And alam mo, nung nandun ako sa kasi ako yung nag-video sa kanya, I am proud. Proud na proud ako kasi kasama ako ni Professor Butch Valdes. Can you imagine, Ma'am Rita, no? Kumbaga parang yung word niya na not territorial boundaries, but economic corridors. Yung mga ways na yan ng 'di ba, sa dagat o sa po. At makikita mo yung 5-point program na talagang gusto niya para matigil yung gera sa buong mundo. One is the freedom of navigation for all, for commercial and military vessels using the Strait of Malacca. Second, construction of the Canal in Thailand to ease the congestion of the Strait of Malacca. Third is demilitarization of the South China Sea. Fourth is the banning of nuclear weapon from the region. And 5 is yung China and the ASEAN nations proposed assistance to the U.S. in rebuilding its infrastructure, especially a network of fast rail system. So actually napakaraming isa pang paborito ko doon, Ma'am Rita, is yung might is not right. Yun ang paborito kong yun, umuukol kayo sa aking kaisipan at yung charity is universal, benevolence, mga ganon ba, Ma'am Rita. But anyway, merong nagtataas ng kamay from Zoom, si Mr. Johnny Bentosa. Mr. Johnny, magandang gabi po. Hello, Sir Johnny.
Hello.
Opo, magandang gabi po.
You know, that was not Butch talking 2018 and 19. He was talking today, 2023.
Correct.
I mean, everything he's talking about is what we need today. It's like, it's as if he was seeing a future.
Opo.
And we should be repeating all this. Many of the things he said I've only heard now. And so to me, it's like he's speaking today to us, the people, and really telling us what to do. And I think, like Madam Gadi was saying, our mainstream media is not helping us at all, because these are the things that they should print in the newspapers and let the people be aware of what we really need, and not what these rotten politicians, these rotten parties are all trying to promote. Right now, they're all, Gadi, right now, I think they're all cabal, period. I'm sorry, thank you.
You're so correct, sir. Butch is speaking to us our time. Exactly. Many of the words that he has already said in the past are all very applicable today. Tama po yung sinasabi nyo and your observation. As a matter of fact, can you imagine this Treaty of Westphalia that he's talking about was in the 17th century.
Yes.
Nahalungkat niya yan at pinag-aralan niya at nakita niya. These are European countries. Sinasabi nga that that was the first world. And 16 of them could not agree. As far as that river is concerned, talagang ang laking away dyan. Hindi lang away, gera-gera
Matagal.
dyan sa river na yan. So can you imagine here, the South China Sea, if you go all the way back, all the way upwards, northwards, itong water system na ito, hanggang sa Aleutian Islands yan sa Alaska. Dadaan pa yan sa Vladivostok ng Russia. Dadaan pa yan sa Korean Peninsula, sa Japan, and all the way down to the Southeast Asian region. And sabi ko nga, lahat yung tubig na yan, that's the front door of China,
Correct.
in a way, and of the countries that are in the border of this navigational highway. Na sabi nga, as Sir Butch said, the terminology he used was, let it be a corridor for navigation, a corridor for economics, a corridor for commerce and trade, a corridor for peace, as a matter of fact, not boundaries, because boundaries are like walls. You remove the other from that place. And that's exactly what we should learn from him and from that Treaty of Westphalia in the 17th century. Anyway, so there you have it. Many things that Sir Butch Valdes has mentioned, especially in that forum. Sabi nga ni Cathy, she felt so proud being there. She was doing the audiovisual of that particular occasion, but that was the occasion that Sir Butch decided to bring the possible solution here to this seeming conflict that is occurring in this region, in this navigational, in this water system that we have bordering our country and several countries in the South China Sea. So it is important always that we can trace back from history certain aspects that have already worked, because the Treaty of Westphalia was able to work as far as those 16 countries are concerned. So why can it not be applied today? Para wala na yung hidwaan na yan. So you're right, Sir Ventosa, that this is really Butch talking to us today. And many other things too that he mentioned then are also applicable today. And just to go back from the other items that he mentioned, because our president, Junior Marcos, just arrived from Davos. And it was in Davos that we had the launching, or we witnessed the launching of this One Belt, One Road project of the president of China, President Xi Jinping. This is the connection that he wanted, started then, that was about 12 years ago, I think. And it was in Davos that he launched this. The railway system, state-of-the-art, that will be crossing the countries of the world and connecting them, so that at every country that it makes a stop, or every city that it makes a stop, it can be able to do commerce. They either sell what products they carry from another country, or they buy whatever the country where they're stopping over could sell. That is it's very Chinese if you look at it, but it is patterned after the old Silk Route. And that is where President Xi Jinping has mentioned, he took the idea how it was in the 6th, 7th, 8th century, when all the countries in Europe and Central Asia were connected by the Silk Route. Silk Route means that was the passageway of the commercial caravans. These were camels, donkeys, horses, carrying goods from one country to the other, and they were trading using silk as their measurement of the value of whatever it is they're selling, because at the time, the world didn't know where silk was coming from. It was some magical, mythological, or mysterious kind of cloth that did not know how it was woven. The Chinese kept that secret for centuries. So the measure of value they had was silk. Kung gaano kabigat yung, or however they measure it, ganun ang value, whatever it is you're selling, frankincense, myrrh, beads, garlic, or whatever it is that you produce. So that was the Silk Route then, crossing Europe, Central Asia, and all the way to India and up to the border here of close to the peninsula that we have in Korea and so forth. So in Davos, that was where the One Belt, One Road was launched. And now it has already crossed many parts of Europe. It has crossed the Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all of this, Kyrgyzstan, all of Central Asia. And it has already passed through Pakistan and now Mongolia. And pretty soon it will be coming over. I think they already started part of it in Pakistan, in Malaysia, and then in the tip of Indonesia and so forth. So that is the state of the art. But again, going down, crossing Middle Eastern countries, Africa is also interconnected now by this railway system, also part of the One Belt, One Road. So in a way, Sir Butch Valdes mentioned that the One Belt, One Road, which is an economic corridor through the railway system that China is building from one country to the other, it is also that kind of an economic corridor that we can have here in the South China Sea, so that there would no be dispute as to who claims this rock, who claims this islet, and so forth. And so there will be an economic activity together with what he proposed, some kind of an agreement with the ASEAN, China, Japan, Korea, how the exploration of whatever is under the water could be undertaken by these different countries. So there you have it. An economic corridor is far better than a corridor used for war and so forth. So Cathy, where are you?
I'm here. Listening.
Okay.
Pero makikita mo, no, sabi nga we are at the crossroad. So, ano bang gusto natin? Gera
Sorry.
ba? O gusto natin ng kapayapaan at pag-unlad, 'di ba? Sabi nga, lagi nga sinasabi ni naalala ko, Ma'am Rita, laging sinasabi ni Professor Butch, ang kapayapaan daw ay makakamit lang kung maunlad ang bansa. 'Di ba? But anyway, no, it's time to read the text messages sent by our listeners. Their opinion does not necessarily reflect our own, but we reserve the right to read them to the public in the interest of freedom of speech. So, meron po tayong mga text messages dyan. At habang inaayos pa ng ating tech, maraming salamat po nga pala sa lahat ng ating mga technician dyan sa himpilan pa rin ng Armen DZXL. Marami pong salamat. At syempre kay Ver Archivido dito sa ating loob ng studio. Okay, first text natin, Philip Doyete. Good evening, Sir Tito. Good evening din, Ma'am Cathy. Humina ang audio, Ma'am Cathy. Ma'am Rita, good evening. Yan, sabi niya. At mula kay Virgilio Villanueva, fifth to like, Ma'am Cathy Cruz. Kakalungkot lang po. Good evening, Ma'am Rita, Gadi, and Ma'am Cathy Cruz. Yan. Mula kay Connie Gomez Valdes, thank you, Ma'am Rita and Cathy, for keeping the fires burning. Of course, and mula kay mga Goy Bislig, ano bang tunay na pangalan ni Lapu-Lapu? Mas kilala pa natin si Magellan. Ano nga ba tunay na pangalan? Ma'am Rita!
Yeah, okay. Marami akong nababasa rin dito. Sabi nga, dapat ganito yung tinatalakay sa world history. Hindi yung nasa textbook lang, even if it's 30 years ago. Yan, ang sinasabi nga. Anong masasabi ninyo sa gusto nila ng war? Because that is one of the main industries of one of the countries of the world. That's the number one industry. Kaya po sira na ang Western media, sabi ni Aaron Vincent to everyone, kaya po sira na ang Western media sa US. Pero may kapit pa din sila sa non-US countries. Yes, of course, they're worldwide. Itong sinasabi mo nga, hindi ko rin maintindihan pa ng pangalan to, si Huawei Bate 40, sinasabi mo, Cathy, kasi business and also Depop, whatever that means. Aaron Vincent, to everyone, actually more than destroying China, ginagamit po nila na instruction manual ang mga pinaggagawa ng China. Wala pong kwenta yung ICC na yan, yung mandatory jobs na illegal, tikom sila. So, well, if you're talking about the International Court of the Criminal Court of Justice, kinakailangan siguro simulan nila doon sa mga malalaking bansa na talagang grabe ang kanilang human rights violations. Ano ba nangyari sa Abu Ghraib? Ano nangyari sa Guantanamo? Ano nangyari doon sa pinakitang binastos nila yung mga prisoners nila ng mga Muslim? Di ba? At yung mga pinasukan nila na bansa at iniwanan nilang nakatiwangwang. Hindi ba criminal yon? My goodness. Anyway, anong ginawa nila sa Afghanistan? In the women, they couldn't even protect the women of Afghanistan. Even the United Nations, kinalampag na nga yan para tumulong doon anyway. So, replying kasi business and also, etc. Aaron Vincent, democracy is actually unholy, sabi ng pastor na nakausap ko. Jayan Carlo EY, replying to democracy is actual, aray talaga. Actually, it's a word that has been much abused. Aaron, because democracy is applicable depending upon your political system and your culture also. Hindi lang basta isang ano lang yan talaga kailangan gawin. Aray talaga because it accounts the majority vote except
At meron din dito, Ma'am Rita, mula kay Jeffrey Shasico. Good evening po. Sabi ni Ivan Riz Parin Kiloy. Evening po. Watching from UK. Yan. At mula kay Rosalina Mond. Good evening, Madam Rita. Salamat, Madam Cathy. Ang mga sinabi mo, totoo. Kasi yan ng KBP. Ang dating anak, ginagamit ng mga kandidato. Katulad ng Pangulo Ferdinand Marcos Sr., sila mga naging president. Sana magawa ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. tulad ng tatay niya, maibalik niya ang dating Pilipinas noon. Mula kay Loteng Bondok, good evening, KBP. Kay Golda Mer, sabi niya, hi Miss Rita, nice to see you again here sa Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. Hello Miss Cathy. Yes ma'am, maraming salamat Ma'am Golda. At sana po matuto makinig ang administration ngayon, ang leaders natin sa mga alam ni Miss Rita Gadi. Madami kasi nagpapayo na di tama para sa Pilipinas. Sabi naman ni Elizabeth Rubia Sirio Dantes, anong stand nyo sa House Bill 6522? Yan, may nagtatanong, Ma'am Rita, do you want to answer it or next time?
Ano ito?
Sabi niya, ano raw ang stand nyo sa House Bill 6522?
Hindi pa tapos yan eh.
Oo
Pinag-uusapan pa, but as long as they're still debating on it, I don't think we can even comment.
Correct.
So pagka nasa final form na at natapos na rin sa Senado, at saka isasubmit na sa Presidente for his signature, maybe at about that time, pwede natin pag-usapan. We will invite rather experts on this, economists, businessmen, etc.
Correct. At mula kay Marisa Buyaw, Miss Chairman Butch Valdes. Sabi naman ni Jinky Bill, magandang gabi Ma'am Rita, watching from Germany. Sabi ni, nag-check-in si Freddy Oredina. At sabi ni Norma Mendoza, good evening Sir Butch Valdes and Miss Rita Gadi. At sabi ni Luis Gerald, good evening po sa inyo Miss Kath and Miss Rita Gadi. Nako, alam mo ba si Luis Gerald, Ma'am Rita, ang ganda-ganda mo dun sa pinost niya sa timeline ng Katipunan channel. At sabi nga niya, women were pa the power muna. God bless po sa inyo.
Thank you.
Sir Butch lang sakalam despite na wala na po siya. Sabi ni Epsilon, sana nga kung walang pabigat. At sabi naman Elizabeth Rubia Sirio Dantes, ang nakakalungkot lang po sa ating bansa ay ang politikong niluluklok natin sa pwesto ay siyang maglalagay sa atin ng kapahamakan sa mga panukalang ginagawa nila tulad ng House Bill 6522. Ma'am Rita, baka meron ka pang gusto mong basahin dyan. Go ahead.
Wala akong binabasa dito,
okay. And mula kay Sarius Cordero, good evening po sa lahat. Siyempre, si Christopher Cruz. No, good evening sa ating mga kasama. At maraming tawag dito, gusto ko lang din batiin, ano, wait lang. Yan, yung si Ma'am Cora Baluyot, no, ng National Power Corporation, of course, si Ma'am Lita Ramos, nako, Manalita, namimiss na kita, from Cainta, at mula kay Anton Jansar Rizal, kay Roy Pahe, mga retirado na to eh. At kay Wilbert Lamarca ng Komisyon ng Wikang Pilipino, of course, yung anak ni Kuya Joel Nagip, at pamilya Pangilinan dyan sa Quezon City. Kumusta rin kay Rolit Gev, lalo na yung mother niyan na masugid din na taga-subaybay. At marami pa tayong iba, hindi ko na lang po kayo nababanggit, pasensya na po. Pero nakikita ko po yung ibang mga mensahe niyo po sa FB Messenger. Maraming salamat po talaga sa patuloy po na pagtunghay nyo, pagsubaybay, at asahan nyo po mga February, makikita na po natin yung si Itos Valdes, yung panganay na anak po ni Professor Butch. Wag po, patuloy po natin suportahan. Siyempre, hindi lamang po ang ating katipunan, ang himpilan din po ng RMN-DZXL na kung saan ay talagang patuloy pong sumusuporta sa palatuntunan ito. And, Ma'am Rita, parting message mo na lang bago po tayo mag-extra.
Okay, for the past 2 hours, we have spoken of a man who has given us the ideas that are coming from his heart. And we do this, and perhaps we'll be doing it repeatedly, because there are many words of genius that we can, of the genius that is in him, that we can be able to use in our lives. So I'd like to thank Cathy for having invited me. Nako, itong pinakamahaba yata na nasasalita ko, 2 hours actually. But then of course, we give credit to all of those who have been supporting us. Vel, maraming salamat. And let us continue with all the programs that we have, including Crossfire. Don't forget this. And if we are having this this February already, maybe Itos could join us for this. And then of course, many other programs ni Cathy at lahat ng KDP channel. So together with the prayers that we always mention at the end of our program, may the Lord guide us through these days of peril, and so that we can be strong enough to confront the evil that surrounds our world, and the strength to have the will and the power to overcome all of this. So thank you, Lord, for guiding us. Thank you, Cathy, for all of this, and all the others who have joined us. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Ma'am Rita. Karangalan ko po na nakasama ko po kayo ngayon. Sa ngalan po ng ating mga katipon dito sa ating katipunan at sa magagaling na staff ng DZXL Radyo Mo Nationwide. Kami po ay pansamantalang nagpapaalam at nagpapasalamat na sinamahan ninyo kami ngayon, ang Hora de Peligro ng ating bayan at ng buong mundo. Dito pa rin sa ating katipunan hanggang sa linggo pong muli mga katipon, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 po ng gabi. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.